The 19 plates of Arceus are scattered throughout the world, yet deliberately placed every time, hiding lost tales of civilizations forgotten, submerged within the depths of the Abyssal Ruins, held by chosen Pokemon in Hisui, and capable of granting immense power. Yet despite that power being so close to his goal, Volo didn't just steal the plates from us for himself. Something stopped him, some greater force beyond what we can see. But to understand what that force is, I've gathered the plates from every region to bring to you why Volo failed to steal the plates of Arceus. Howdy there, I'm Krillic, connecting the world through Pokemon. The plates of Arceus hold an incredible amount of power in them, but there's one thing that started bothering me. Why didn't Volo just rob us of every single plate after we gathered them? Why did he fight us directly? And why did he just stand back and watch us achieve every plate on our own? Well, to answer these questions, we need to look at every location where we find the plates and how we get them in the first place. And I don't just mean within Hisui, I mean within the entire world. Starting with the Draco Plate, this plate is found in Eterna City, an old city that shows fading and almost forgotten vestiges of ancient history. A statue of an ancient Pokemon is prominently and reverently displayed. That statue depicts Dialga, but at a second glance it does have traits of Palkia as well, namely the splayed wings and the back feet. In the manga, we get a much better shot of it and how their features are actually combined. It is, though, behind this statue that we find the Draco Plate. It's clear then why we find the plate here, with a statue meant to depict godly Pokemon that control time and space that are well respected and loved by the people of this town. We can even read a plaque that is translated by Team Galactic with two different inscriptions. The first states, "The creation of Dialga, the giver of time. In laughter there is tears, and likewise it is with time. The same time flows on, for it is the blessing of Dialga." Fairly straightforward, that in time you will have laughter and tears, tears and laughter, good times followed by bad, and things will cycle as time is gifted again and again. Meanwhile, the second inscription states, "The birth of Palkia, the creator of parallel dimensions, alive yet not alive. Everything drifts in space to arrive in the same universe. It is the blessing of Palkia." Which this has an entirely different crazy meaning. For starters, space and the afterlife are often one and the same. This is why there are so many legendary encounters in high up spaces, mountains like with Regigigas in Snowpoint Temple, Arceus on Mount Coronet, even encountering Necrozma or battling the Elite Four on Mount Lanakila. But for this plaque to state alive yet not alive is wild, especially since Palkia is noted to live between dimensions, making it theoretically alive but not alive, as while it expands space, which is the heavens, it is not within space. Now, the Draco Plate guides us to this place to learn lore about these legendary dragons, but the next place we find it is actually where we get all 16 of the then released plates, from the captain of the SS Aqua in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which is only obtainable after obtaining all 16 badges. You're then able to use this ship to also travel between Kanto and Johto, traveling between Olivine and Vermilion, yet the captain claims to travel all the way to Sinnoh, as that's where he supposedly found the plates. He just calls it a mysterious object, handing it over because he wants us to have it without any other explanation whatsoever, which there is one possible tie here, and it's all because we do run into Cynthia in these games, playing a major role in the entire Sinnoh Ruins event that lead us to meeting Arceus. The captain doesn't state anything about going to Sinnoh multiple times, and we know there are tons of plates that can be dug up out of the ground, at least mechanically, maybe not in lore. So at least there's a decent chance that he arrived in Sinnoh at the request of Cynthia, obtained extras of these plates, and then brought her to Johto. Moving on though to more specific locations again, we have this plate found on Route 13 in Unova, though this is another very special case that has more mystery to it, because both the Draco Plate and the Splash Plate are received by a treasure hunter. He will mention that he found these two plates in the Abyssal Ruins, the same place where we can find the rest of our plates. This continues even into Pokemon Black 2 White 2, as you find two plates in Undella Bay, which sits against Route 13 in the first place, while being the location where you dive in to get to the Abyssal Ruins. Now, I would say let's talk about these ruins later, but we all know they're one of the most interesting locations within Pokemon bar none as far as deep lore goes. And now we find out every single plate was once here within the ruins, so what's happening here? Well, these ruins were once a standing location built by one of the heroes of Unova, or at least we think so. Now submerged underwater, it stands as a modern-day tomb of what once was a great kingdom of the past. Though the citizens of this place were all saved, thanks to the king being aware, predicting the great tragedy that would be arriving, the massive tsunami that would make this place as it is in the modern day. I once questioned why would the king know a tsunami was coming. We would also question why he had the ability to talk to Pokemon, as we find out from Zinzalin. It's actually through his efforts that we learn a number of things, as Zinzalin studies the runes of the ruins and translates them to the modern language. The king must be the presence that stopped the war and united the people. The king could see the future and talk to all living things. He united the people. If that is the truth, he was just like the hero. There are some characters I can't recognize, but based on the context, an extremely wonderful king was laid to rest in those ruins. If that king has descendants, maybe those special powers were passed down. This is something that is told to Ghetsis, allowing us to tie N to the lineage of this king, as N does speak to Pokemon, though, of course, it's too bad then that this king was laid to rest here. Otherwise, in terms of other lore and other theories, we'd have the perfect place to just throw in AZ with all this crazy stuff going on, but that's neither here nor there. This king had not only the ability to talk to Pokemon, he could see the future, and he united his people, ending the war and at some point gathering all of the plates, something that only we have ever done to our knowledge as the player. This isn't something done only once in Pokemon, by the way, and I'm not just talking about the games in terms of the ability to speak to Pokemon. There are people throughout the Pokemon movies who have these exact abilities as they directly worship Arceus. They even directly speak to the hearts of Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, and then Arceus, calming their hearts, communicating with them, and bearing incredible powers. I mean, there was this one guy in the Hoopa movie who was able to use the plates to even create the prison bottle for Hoopa, and then also use his own abilities to give life to plants. It's actually insane what imagery they've provided through Arceus in the movies. So then, there's an extremely high chance that Arceus was worshipped by the king of this castle, and that his dragon, whether that be Reshiram or Zekrom, would then play second fiddle. This man saw past truths and ideals. He saw the complete image of life, and that is why he would unite his people together, ending the war, achieving a great accomplishment and allowing him to then use the plates to his advantage. As we look at the final sentences within the ruins, they do become a bit unclear, but as a community, Pokemon fans have been able to mostly decipher what it could mean, getting as close as possible without any final answers. I don't want to look at them all, I just actually want to look at the symbol used in one of them. Blank joined king in a day. Now, I and so many others have always thought this was supposed to be representative of the Taijutsu symbol, the yin and yang. But what if, with the dots at the centers of those circles, these are meant to not be the yin and yang, but instead be the unknown? After all, we're keenly aware of just how important the unknown are to lore, their infinite power when together, how they collect when Arceus creates a copy of one of the trio of myth in the Sinjoh ruins, and even when Dialga and Palkia fight, they are tearing apart the fabric of reality, and we see thousands of unknown fleeing the scene. This isn't a coincidence. There's a chance then that Arceus may have literally joined the king here, or at least sent unknown on his behalf. This would even explain why the Lake Guardians have the fast pass to Unova from Sinnoh, as we can find them at separate locations throughout the region. Unfortunately though, it seems like that's where a lot of these connections stop, because there are no mountains to climb in order to reach Arceus itself. The closest we get is Dragon Spiral Tower, a place meant for Reshiram and Zekrom, or rather for the original dragon before it split. Though if there was a great mountain here, I'm sure we would be able to see Arceus once more outside of just receiving it in real life events. Though the more I look at these ruins, the more mystery they provide. But we're nowhere near done yet today, as there are plenty of other locations for each of the plates and why they're found where they are, why it takes so much effort to actually achieve them, or we have to reach a specific goal to get them. But before we do continue, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you're new here, subscribe. I have days if not months worth of deep dives just like this, and if you're enjoying this so far, then I'm confident you're going to enjoy the rest of this. I also want to thank members of the channel and Patreon. Their support goes the extra mile and ensures I can take my time with these deep dives and provide this content for everyone. If you want behind the scenes info, early access to videos, and members exclusive videos like the new one I'm making right after this, all about Pokemon that canonically hate humans, with Little Baniri being one of them, then become a member for as little as $3 a month. It makes a massive difference. Lastly, if you were a Pokemon, let me know what your type would be. Not only do I love reading comments, but they also appease the almighty algorithm alongside likes, shares, and hyping the video. I'd personally be a ghost or psychic type Pokemon, maybe both. I thrive in chaos, but also love learning as much as possible about everything, so that's my reasoning behind it. Plus, teleportation and invisibility go hard when getting into restricted areas for information that, larger governments might not want me to have. So that sounds great to me. But enough of all that. Once again, thank you, and on with the video. Kalos Route 22, we go down one waterfall, with the only way to get this plate being to ascend another waterfall. This is way cooler than it seems, as this route attaches to Victory Road, a place you can only get past by having all 8 badges, as I'm sure you know. A grandstanding achievement for trainers throughout the world of Pokemon. But ascending this waterfall is the exact equivalent of Magikarp evolving into Gyarados, the climbing of the waterfall. According to tradition, a carp that could swim upstream and then leap the falls of the Yellow River at Dragon Gate would be transformed into a dragon. And so to add to your new draconic form, now that you've ascended the waterfall, you've been granted the Draco Plate. Nice and simple. Onto Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where things get, a little strange, because we find nearly every single plate underwater. Routes 107, 124, and then 126 through 130 are where we find nearly every single plate. Steven Stone gives us one, through also gifting us a Beldum that is holding onto the Iron Plate, the only plate that is not found on any of those underwater routes, which means he must have gotten it from those areas, because we do not find another Iron Plate around there. But the strangest of all is that when we get to Route 130, we not only find the most plates in one spot, 4 of them in fact, with Fist, Icicle, Earth, and Metal, but we also find the Grisius Orb underwater in this area as well. The orb that of course allows Giratina to transform into its origin form. This is multi-layered, as on Route 130, we also have Mirage Island, directly translated from Japanese to actually be called Phantom Island. This route is also noted on Bulbapedia to have eerily similar qualities to Route 230 in Sinnoh, from the way it's designed to even being the only route to encounter a specific baby Pokemon on. Wynot is only found on 130, while Togepi is only found on 230. I would even argue that both of these Pokemon are symbols of peace. Togepi because of its Dex entry stating exactly that through its evolutions, with Wynot and Wobbuffet being noted to never strike anyone else first. So then taking all of this further to really show how ancient these routes are, we find Relicanth, who appears underwater on every single route I've mentioned here, where the plates are, and not in any other location within Oris. So this mystery is just getting deeper and deeper, no pun intended. My next lead here is to then look at Giratina. After all, if everything is this ancient and all these plates have led us to its orb, then what, did just Giratina stop by here, drop all the plates off in one spot, and then dip as these plates drifted in the ocean's waters? Well, no. Because as it turns out, when you have the Lake Guardians on your team, you have the chance of watching a dimensional rift open up to then get Dialga or Palkia, and if you have both of them on your team while soaring on your Latios or Latias, then you can see a new rift open up just south of Dewford and fight Giratina. And this is nowhere near where all these plates are found. Ultimately then, this means that the reference is just that Giratina, being a ghost Pokemon, just serves as a parallel to an entire Phantom Island that seems to appear and disappear as it pleases. The island is otherwise fairly inconsistent across media, having a number of different anomalies going on, such as time working erratically, thanks to Celebi appearing there at one point in time. Onto Alola, every single plate can be bought or found in Hau'oli City after defeating Nanu or Route 1. Now, Nanu has nothing to do with the lore behind why we find it in these areas, but they're otherwise hidden before defeating him. Its name, as far as this city goes, just means Happy City. It's likely inspired by Honolulu, the state capital and largest city of Hawaii, which somehow doesn't really tie into this at all. The only plates found outside the city are the Mind and Earth Plate. Mind being in front of the garage by our house, and the Earth Plate being by a palm tree on the east end of the beach. This one, though, then, lines up with the Icicle Plate found on the coast of Hau'oli's beach, suggesting that these rare items are just floating over here from some other location. Or alternatively, there's another reason why they're here, something far less coincidental than just randomly floating here. We know that Aether Paradise researched Arceus and its abilities within the Kanalov library of Sinnoh, how it could change types at will through the power of its plates. They then mimicked this power through the RKS system to create Silvally, then named Type Full, even creating discs known as memories in order to get as close to mimicking the power of Arceus as possible. When the project fell apart and these Pokemon were cryogenically frozen, these plates and even more artifacts were sold likely to the highest bidder, or just tossed into the waters of the world to hide their mistakes, to hide their sins, as they did some horrible things to those Pokemon. This then explains why we find some on the coasts, could help explain why we have a plate in front of our house, just by someone potentially leaving it there, and even help explain why not only are there a bunch of plates sold by a shop called Antiquities of the Ages, but why they have the items necessary to unlock the origin and primal forms of our 5 Pokemon. It's very strange that a random shop would have all of this, but they do seem to just think they're antiquities, not the real thing, all while just being mechanically convenient for us as players, so I don't think I'm going to spend a bunch of time on it. Now, I want to note now, because I can feel you itching for all that Volo lore, I will be saving all of those plates for the big finale within Hisui, because their stories are far more cohesive there as our final example that will tell us everything we need, and we need to build up to that to solidify all of the lore and connections to that point. Instead, for now though, we have the most non-lore connection in the form of Porto Merenada. You can go here to join auctions and blow your money on things like apricorn balls, which have a starting bid of 100,000 Pokédollars. But it's also here that you can get every single special item related to any legendary or mythical Pokemon that you can use in this game. You want the meteorite that changes Deoxys' forms? Starting at 4,000. You want the Soldew? Also starting at 4,000. Everything really starts at 4,000, but we have the DNA Splicers, Prison Bottle, Reigns of Unity, Reveal Glass, which does work on an Amherst, by the way, and all of the plates of Arceus. Literally everything is here for whatever reason. Are we really surprised though? Do you know the things you can get in an auction? Absolute trash or absolute gold, both sold at incredibly high or incredibly low prices, and this is no exception. But from here we can finally move on to the next plate and move smoothly between them before closing with the grand story hidden in these plates within Legends Arceus. As a reminder, this means we really only have Sinnoh and Kalos to look at for special locations, with one exception, so we'll be moving fairly quickly until that finale in Hisui. Within the old chateau, abandoned and haunted, we find the Dread Plate. This plate, also called the Frightening Plate. We'll find it in the exact types of locations you would expect, though this plate is specifically found in the same room on the far west with a number of books. Nothing more here as we can't read the books, but it is a place filled with ghosts and mystery, and that's really all we need for this plate to be placed here, as it is frightening. The same can actually be said of the Lost Hotel in Kalos, a place that has long since been abandoned, and strangely enough, another signature location of Rotom. They emphasize this more in the anime, as they show a story on how the hotel came to be abandoned, even showing Rotom hiding away in a trash can. This place was once famous, only to be left in shade of its former glory after tragedy left it in ruins. That tragedy explained in the anime to simply be the ownership being transferred to thugs that won it in a fight after Rotom fled the battle. From there, the thugs just kinda let it crumble to nothing. The only way to even get the plates, by the way, is by using Rock Smash on a cracked wall, busting it open. And I'm really hoping our character at least held their breath, because I can only imagine the sheer amount of mold released when doing that. That would kill me. No thank you. I will note it is very important to know that the Dread Plate is the Dark Plate, not the Ghost Plate. I personally mix that up quite a bit, and there are entirely different implications with them then. One being that this is dread, the raw emotion of fear. In addition, there's plenty of underhandedness happening in both of these locations. One being that the ghosts are likely just Pokemon pretending to be people, as we kinda get to see in the old chateau short. Meanwhile, we know the Lost Hotel was taken away due to a tragedy, leaning into dread rather than just general spookiness. The underhandedness part coming in when we look at the anime once more. Moving on though, the Earth Plate can be found at Orberg Gate in Sinnoh, a small cave to the west of Orberg. It completes the path between Jubilife and Orberg City, created as a way to shorten the time it takes to travel between the cities, though our Earth Plate is found on a floor below the passing cave tunnel. This seems a little random at first, but the achievement is that they crossed the divide. They made it easier for people altogether to reach each other. And also we have the simple connection through knowing Orberg as how we're able to gain the ability to go mining whenever we want and get copies of the plates. And of course this is kept simple as we find this plate in Reflection Cave in Kalos as well. Just another cave at the end of the day to match the earthly aesthetic, but still something that serves as a crossing of boundaries that you have to get through as a smaller achievement. The Fist Plate is found just past Black Belt Gregory on Sinnoh's Route 215, though you need HM Cut to access this area in the first place. So cut the tree, defeat the trainer. Easy connection and nothing else special here other than his Japanese name being Yosuke, which made me think of Josuke from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and then of Yosuke from Persona 4. Go figure. We'll also solidify that in order to get the Fist Plate, you have to prove your physical strength, as in Kalos you just need to use strength southeast of the fishing shack and unlock the space where we find the Fist Plate. And now I want you to start keeping this idea in mind, that for each plate we not only have to find them in thematic locations, but also we'll have to prove ourselves to these plates in order to get them. That we must be brave to get the Dread Plate, be strong to achieve the Fist Plate, dive into the underground for Earth Plate, and so much more. It doesn't matter the scale or magnitude of the achievement, we just have to put that effort and be able to accomplish it. This detail becomes incredibly vital by the time we look at Hisui's locations. Arguably one of the most fitting locations, we find the Flame Plate in Stark Mountain for Sinnoh, the same place that is not only a hidden volcano, but is also the same place that houses Heatran. Meaning not only do you have to brave the incredible dangers of the fumes being released, the incredible heat of lava, and just traversing all of that, but you also have to overcome every fire Pokemon standing between you and your prize. At least you don't have to fight Heatran for this place, you just gotta find the dead end where this plate sits, grab it, and then dip. The closest we get to this in Kalos is a place without an active volcano within the game, which is on Route 13. Not only does it have a special magnetic field, but it is also the host of a power plant, as no plants are able to grow on the red clay that composes this area's soil, and they figure to be a great place that will not disturb the environment. Speaking ecologically, yeah, that's kind of tough for plants. That's why we really only see bushes in that area. It's just that soil is so compact that it'll prevent air from coming through to the roots, suffocating the plants. And so without good plant life, the place is a barren area as it's taking the full beating from the sun, the entire area heating up with no real relief and becoming a desert in its own right with massive gusts of wind to push through. Though it also isn't called a desert, likely because it does receive enough rain, I assume, even though in the anime they do depict it to look more like a desert, so do with that what you will, I suppose. In between rainfalls, it is going to be incredibly hot, and that's why we run into Pokemon like Gible and Slugma here. Though I'm sure it doesn't help that the Kalos power plant is underneath all of this, despite it stating that it is environmentally responsible, it is still producing an incredible magnetic field. This is a bit of a tangent, but this is also something that, when interacting with metals and other magnetic sources, could actually affect temperature in the area overall, especially on this scale, but that is a bigger story for a different day. Instead, we can move on, as it's clear why the Flame Plates would be found here. The Icicle Plate is on Sinnoh's Route 217, with a man hiding away in a cabin. You've had to brave the cold to get to this point, especially as this place is incredibly cold, with a blizzard constantly blowing. Of course, making it best to hunker down somewhere safe with a fire until it all blows over, but you went off the beaten path to get to this point and grab this plate. This would also be the last bastion of extreme cold from back when Sinnoh used to be much colder during its time as Hisui. And on these same exact lines, we have Route 17 in Kalos that is noted to have constant snowstorms and heavy snowfall. This place is also known as Mamoswine Road, with those Pokemon being the only way to cross the route altogether. You have to go a bit out of your way through routes and breakable rocks in order to get the Icicle Plate here. So once again, we find these plates in places that aren't just snowy, but are full constant blizzards. the extremes that require a bit of a test to get your hands on. For our Insect Plate, we once again return to Eternal Forest in Sinnoh, as the plate is right next to the old chateau. Nothing crazy, as you would expect plenty of bugs to not only make home in the forest, but also to take residence in the rubble of the chateau under wood, rocks, or just generally in its shadow. Your accomplishment, I guess, is chopping down a tree and getting over here in the first place. Its appearance, though, on Kalos Route 21 is the only time these plates don't seem to fully follow a strong sense of a theme, as it just kind of appears slightly off the beaten path above the gate to Snowbell City. Sure, this is a self-proclaimed route to hone the stalwart trainers who dare face the Pokemon League, setting you right before Victory Road, but it doesn't feel as connected to the Insect Plate specifically. Sure, you have the challenge, sure, you have something to achieve, but again, not so much towards this specific plates, but I guess not everything can be perfect. Of course, the Iron Plate would be found on Iron Island for Sinnoh. This place once had a massive iron mining operation, and now there are just remnants left behind. You can also come face to face with Registeel here, as it connects to the Iron Ruins, though you need the Regigigas from an event in order to trigger this encounter in the first place. Otherwise, you are traveling deep within this mountain in order to get that plate. And once again, following a proper theme, Kalos' Terminus Cave is actually a coal mine that was closed due to rumors of a monster living deep inside. In B2F, we can find the Iron Plate, but going deeper, we come into contact with the significance of this location. Not only can we find the 3 orbs of the Trio of Myth, but we find those in the lowest part of the mines, a natural opening uncovered, blocked only by an ace trainer, who will not move until you become champion. This is then where we can come face to face after making that achievement ours with Zygarde, as this lowest chamber belongs to it, and it is the monster rumored to live here. All of these important items related to the Pokemon of Myth and Arceus being found here with Zygarde is interesting. We know it's able to absorb the energy of anything on the planet, giving it greater power, so it makes me wonder if there's technically a limit to its power. Maybe Zygarde could become infinitely powerful, especially with the wishes of others poured into it, but that idea will have to wait, as I'm just going to reserve that for another day with another video that gets really into the weeds there. For now, it feels like this plate, while in the mines thematically, may have been fated to arrive here, as Zygarde may have originally brought it here or someone uncovered it as part of the entire mining operation. Back to other extremes, the Meadow Plate is found on Route 210 in Sinnoh, the only place with grass so tall that it notes that it tickles the noses of people straying off the path. The grass here grows rampant without being chopped or manicured. It is left to be nature as nature intended. Though you'll still need waterfall to get this plate, at least in theory, you would be able to see the great open area of high-grown plant life in its full glory, straying off that beaten path that you're warned about. Matching this on Kalos' Route 20, the plate is found amongst the winding paths of this location, where people created a path designed to disturb the woods as little as possible. Whereas any other route might be direct or charged through a forest, this one works around the forest and all the microhabitats of all the different Pokemon living here, whether that be Zoroark or Trevenant, who will likely attack you if you stray off that path, especially if you end up harming the forest in any way. And of course, you have to venture a bit of a ways out of the way into the forest, surrounding yourself in nature in order to get this plate. The Mind Plate is found in the final room of the Solaceon Ruins, meaning that you have to read the unknown, use your thinking skills, solve the puzzle, and reach that final room. For us, this isn't that big of a deal or hard task, but to those in the world of Pokemon, the unknown are far stronger, shown to have more power, and be a bit unpredictable. It's even shown that the letters they take after may not 100% be part of the same alphabet that the people of the world of Pokemon use. No matter what language you play the games in or watch the anime in yourself, these are different from what they are aware of. Even if we go by the true name of this plate, the Mysterious Plate, then of course everything surrounding the unknown is one grand mystery that is still being solved. Route 10 in Kalos, moving on to there, is our other location, which is the same location where we find all of the graves of Pokemon whose lives were used to fuel the ultimate weapon. Stones that would have Pokemon attached to them and have their energy pulled away in order to bring AZ's Floette back to life and put an end to the war. Nothing else of the same caliber has ever been created, leaning into Mind for AZ's genius brain, but also leaning into the mysterious naming of the plate for the mystery that existed here and solving that until the final events of Pokemon X and Y. The Fairy Plate is also called the Spirit Plate, And this is massively important to note. Fairy types are embodiments of spiritual or life energy, aliens, and kind of supernatural creatures overall. They parallel ghost types, as while they are imbued with life or spiritual energy, ghost Pokemon are just spirits themselves that steal or manipulate life energy. This plate helps solidify that separation and that parallel. In a patch of yellow flowers, we find this plate within Kalos, and it's within those flowers that we can encounter a number of different Pokemon, yet only Jigglypuff is a fairy type in this area. Instead of focusing on the types of Pokemon, we instead focus on this area as a whole. We find Eviolite here, tons of berries and herbs, and plenty of Pokemon. And this was out of the way once again, a secret that we had to uncover as an achievement. Each and every Pokemon here are hiding away from humans. The reasons are numerous, whether that be because they just don't want to be caught, they were mistreated, they're injured in general, you name it. This is where they hide in order to stay happy and healthy, all while Mewtwo sits in the cave nearby and watches over them all. This collection of Pokemon and the idea of them healing from their past traumas would then fit perfectly into this plate, a collection of spiritual energy reconstituting our Pokemon before they head back out into the world. Meanwhile, we don't get this plate in the Diamond and Pearl remakes unless we go into the Grand Underground. Buried beneath the world and needing us to mine for it, this immediately actually reminds me of the inscription on the Sky Plate. The being poured the remains of his power into stone and buried it deep. This plate has always been pretty strange to me, but it does have multiple meanings implied within it. One, of course, being that it's talking about these plates being buried deep. Another is when we look at the origin ore, something that of course relates back to the origin of the universe, Arceus, and the origin of energy. This then tells us one more meaning behind the inscription, which is that it may also be talking about the three orbs that allow Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina to transform into their origin forms. So anytime we find these plates underground in any region, this is kind of our lore behind it, that this power has been imbued within these plates, and the plates are buried within the planet to give power to the planet and to those who uncover them. This wouldn't be the only time we're told something like this either. With Pokemon like Jirachi, Reshiram, and Zekrom, all these Pokemon and more are vital towards the power and the rejuvenation of energy within the planet itself to help keep balance. The only other place we find the Pixie Plate is actually within Galar, and this is incredibly strange, because if you haven't noticed, Galar does not have any other plate except for the Fairy Plate. It's found in an indent next to one of the holes that Phalanx comes out of, within a massive excavation site that works to reveal a lost civilization. I've personally long wondered where the Fairy King Calyrex originally resided within Galar, because we know it would eventually fight Eternatus in the past and have to be brought back to health within the Crown Tundra, making a new home for itself there, only to be forgotten again. And based on this plate, this must be exactly where Calyrex first brought plentiful harvests to the people of Galar. Unfortunately, it was all lost to time. Since it is a newer quote-unquote plate, I do want to talk about its inscription, which states the original one is in all things. The original one is nowhere at all. And when we look at Calyrex, we do see the symbol of the Hojo clan on its neck beads, the same ones or the same clan that would foster Zen Buddhism in the real world. It's a pure white hair, it holds similar powers to the people we see that worship Arceus in the movies, so then maybe Calyrex is genuinely a Buddha, one who worshipped Arceus and has been granted its power in some way. After all, it is hyper-religious to state that the original one is in all things and nowhere at all. You just switch out original one for God, and you have the easiest comparison bar none. So then maybe Calyrex had left the realm of Arceus to bring Galar natural bounties, hoping to protect and restore the land to its natural splendor, but partially failed in this process. If it had succeeded, then the rest of the plates would have likely followed to grant additional bounties and fortune to Galar as a whole, maybe even preventing the climate shift that happened. But for now, the land stays entirely within the hands of the people, hoping to avoid an energy crisis in the future. The Sky, or rather Blue Sky Plate, is far more symbolic than the rest of our items. We find it at the Pokemon League overlooking the distance you just traveled in Sinnoh, and then again in Coumarine City at the edge of a cliff. It's almost cathartic, if you would, as if to say the sky is the limit, to bring inspiration and perspective right after you've already completed your achievement once again. I'd have expected to find them in the air somehow, but instead, again, it's almost like we're meant to pick it up while facing an endless expanse of blue sky before us, and I gotta say, that sounds magnificent. It should also be no surprise that we would encounter these splash plates in the waters of Route 220 in Sinnoh, where people are known to swim while being on the edge of the Sinnoh map. It really isn't anything special at all, not that I could find, just open waters, though when we get into Kalos, we do find this within the Azure Bay. More specifically, we get it near the Sea Spirit's Den, something that houses the legendary birds and stands in reference to Lugia. This is off the beaten path once more. You have no reason to go into this area unless you are just generally exploring. And while Lugia isn't a water type, it doesn't get more extreme than Lugia without looking at Pokemon like Kyogre in order to get those areas that really represent water and being one with it, as it dives so deep below the surface. The Spooky Plate is not as extreme as we might initially want to make it. We find it in the original Diamond and Pearl games and their remakes in Amity Square, next to a boy and their Drifloon, once more off the beaten path or a little bit out of the ways. But unfortunately, in the Platinum game, that boy and the Drifloon are gone, implying that he was dragged away, as Drifloon are apt to do as per their Pokédex. Kind of dark, if you think about it, but there have at least been reports of children being dropped off in random places and not exactly being completely taken away, so maybe he's alive somewhere? In Kalos, we find it in the Chamber of Emptiness, noted to be a mysterious void that nothing can exist in. There are only two things that can be found here: the Spooky Plate in the center of the cave, and Benetite at the very end wall of the cave. It's genuinely an ominous mystery as to how the cave was formed, why nothing has moved in, why there are 0 wild encounters or special encounters, and why it says nothing can exist in it, yet we exist in it. It just serves as an anomaly with no answer, ripe for spooky stories. The Stone Plate, surprisingly, is found in Mount Coronet. One floor away from the very top, we can enter room 2 on the 4th floor and find ourselves having to climb a waterfall to get our hands on the Stone Plate, Adamant Orb, and Lustrous Orb. We get the waterfall metaphor again, and the climbing of the mountain here, a reward before we reach the very top. Once again, we also find the plates surrounded by the special items of our legendary myth Pokemon, yet we don't see the orb for Giratina here. In fact, it's only in Platinum that we even find these 2 orbs here, making it a clear, deliberate decision to not include the Gricious Orb. Now, Mount Coronet is of course incredibly sacred, and so you can't get a stone any better than the stone that is found in this mountain, at least religiously speaking, within Pokemon. Meanwhile, for Kalos, we find it on Route 15 through the use of Rock Smash, Surf, and Waterfall, early and late game HMs. What's weird is we're given a lot of Dark-type Pokemon on this route, while the route says this location has become a popular hangout for the wild and directionless youths of Lumio City, so maybe we have a pun here as there's Punks, and we have an item that boosts Rock-type moves. Punk Rock, maybe? Look, as I said earlier, not all of them can be absolute bangers. Some of them are just getting your HMs, going out of your way, and just having those minor achievements. But, you know, as a special fun fact, this place is also called Brunway, which translates to Brown Way, which, you know, Rock Plate is brown, so small aesthetic tie. Speaking of minor achievements that just mean you have to battle a lot of trainers or just get really far into the areas that we find them, I have no idea why, but the Toxic Plate is just thrown into bogs, marshes, and swamps as we see it in the Great March of Sinnoh and Route 19 of Kalos. Sure, there are also some Pokemon that have toxic mucus or are poison types, but it's not like these are dump zones or house tons of poisonous or toxic Pokemon. These are just secluded little areas to get them. My only other guess, at least thematically speaking, not just achievement speaking, is that there's a connection to the association of these wetlands with mosquitoes and how they're known to carry a slew of diseases that are of course incredibly harmful to us. There was even a belief in some areas of the world that the swamp air itself was toxic and shouldn't be breathed in, as that was what was actually causing the disease. I guess that's the only other logical explanation. Otherwise, I'm at a loss as to why toxic is specifically here. But finally, we have the Lightning Plate, and do not worry, I know there are 2 other plates to talk about thanks to Legends Arceus. But with the Lightning Plate, we find it within the solar-powered city, sitting in the sunny Shore City. That sounds like a tongue twister. Either way, it's very fitting that the city bearing the electric gym would have this plate, especially with the sheer amount of effort that goes into creating a city that is 100% solar powered as it is done here. And this plate is even more specifically found in front of the Vista Lighthouse. Following this logic on power and grandstanding of great achievements, this plate is also found in the Kalos power plant right by staff within this location. It is strange to me a little bit that these plates are found in these locations instead of more natural locations by the standards of Pokemon, but I guess there's no other place that reaches the same level of extremes or being one with a typing than these power generating locations, especially as they both have that grandstanding crown of being 100% solar powered and providing energy to their entire region. Now we're into what really made me want to look into all of this. A bit ago, I received the comments from Xana, who questioned why didn't Volo take the plates from us at the end of Legends Arceus? Why did he take us on in a Pokemon battle and not just attack us directly or attack us after the battle? Why didn't he just ask for the plates or rob us or literally anything else in order to achieve what he wanted? And the answer is this: he literally could not, because then he would not be the rightful bearer of the plates. He would not have achieved greatness. He would not have been able to do what all the plates want him to do throughout all the generations and all the regions, and he would be denied power. The Splash Plate states, the rightful bearer of a plate draws from the plate it holds. And long ago, I thought this was just meant to relate to a Pokemon of the right typing, but of course any Pokemon can use the plates with the right moves. This doesn't relate just to the Pokemon themselves, it relates to someone who has achieved a greater goal, as we've been talking about. Allow me to walk you through every bit of proof we now have for this within Hisui. We first get the Mind Plate after we make moves to calm Kleavor in its rampage, Weirdeer coming as a Psychic type Pokemon to grant us the Mind Plate and the ability to ride it. After we defeat the noble Kleavor, it gives us the Insect Plate itself, then walks away. We defeat Ursaluna in the Crimson Mirelands and are given the Earth Plates from this normal ground-type Pokemon. Then the Meadow Plates from defeating the frenzied noble Hisuian Lilligant, Splash Plate from making the Mochi for Basculegion, Flame from defeating noble Arcanine, defeating Ingo for Sneasler and the Toxic Plate, noble Electrode for the Zap Plate, defeat Sabi for the Sky Plate, then the noble Avalugg for the Icicle Plate. Each of these plates clearly being massive story beats, followed by their respective plates in typing after achieving something great in the process of saving people and Pokemon, or defeating people in battle, in what can only be described as trials. From here, we do lose the typing associations, instead having an Alpha Vespiquen bearing these stone plates. I'm not 100% sure what the association is here, because it has no rock type moves during the fight, but maybe you can stretch it to being in relation to the King's Rock. I don't know. We do get to defeat Komodo, who is a trained martial artist for the Fist Plate. Then, after capturing the Lake Guardians, we're gifted the Draco Plate, relating to their ability to help bind the powers of Dialga and Palkia. The Iron Plate is next by defeating Heatran, a Pokemon composed of melting metal. Then we defeat Cresselia for the Dread Plate, showing how just like how she handles Darkrai, she is able to contain the dread of this dark and dangerous plate of power. We can then get a new plate, the Blank Plate, achieved only by unlocking the seal to Regigigas' door and traveling down to defeat it. Through this plate, we are told 3 beings, whose power can hold both time and space fixed, relating of course to Mesprit, Azelf, and Uxie, their own relation to Regigigas being well hidden within the world of Pokemon, but I won't talk about that here. Instead, I recommend my video on why Arceus and humanity betrayed Regigigas. Instead, moving forward, we get the Pixie Plate, only after we bring Kogita 3 pieces of wood. You'd think this is just her gifting it to us, but this was still us achieving and completing a task for the bearer of the plate. Something that, as we've spoken about, doesn't matter how big or small the task is, as long as it is completed. She even states, honest work earns honest pay. Here you are, a reward for the wood you've brought me. And she immediately plays dumb, pretending to not know it was one of the plates that we have been tracking down, as if she didn't just literally say it is a payment to us and a final task to learn more about everything we've been doing. What do you mean, a plate? Let me see that again. This does rather look like one of the plates you've been tracking down, while the engravings upon it made it less than accommodating as a cutting board. Whatever ingredients crossed it certainly gained a more pleasant flavor. Perhaps that was the board's power. The plate's power, rather. The spiritual plate has additional effects that bring robust life even to ingredients, apparently, which only makes me curious what the other plates can do. Are they attracting Pokemon of specific types? Are they changing the ecology of entire microhabitats? Which then could explain why Cresselia is holding on to the Dread Plate to make sure it doesn't cause any damage? Questions I'll never likely get the answer to, unfortunately. From here, the second to last plate we get is only by defeating Volo and Giratina, who then hands over the Spooky Plate, but it doesn't stop there, because only once we complete the Pokédex as requested can we play the Azure Flute, climb the Stairway to Heaven, and come face to face with Arceus. Our battle with it is our very final major test of our story, and upon defeating it, we not only get to have an Arceus of our own, a fragment of a greater god, but we also then are given the Legend Plate. And as it states, from all creations over all creations, does the original one watch over all. These plates, every single one, belong to Arceus, and by all means, anyone and everyone can use them. From all creations and over all creations, the power of Arceus is within every human and Pokemon. It grants power and takes it away. It provides more through the plates, and only those who have proven themselves are allowed to use them. Even Volo must have done so, somehow proving himself to Giratina long ago, and through their bond of being abandoned children, as Volo likes to call it, he was granted the Spooky Plate from Giratina. I also realized saying Spooky Plate takes away the drama and tension. Probably should have been calling it the Spectre Plate this whole time. Nevertheless, every single one of these plates, no matter where we find them, no matter how we get our hands on them, are an achievement. They are the final goal to understand the world of Pokemon, going off the beaten path, defeating a trainer, something to allow us to envelop ourselves within the world, to achieve something greater than oneself. This is why we can find them in seemingly unnatural places, like the power plants. This is why Volo didn't just stab us in the heart after we gathered every single plate and run off with the whole collection. This is why we are given them one by one throughout Legends Arceus, because they are crowning achievements and recognition of our efforts from Arceus, telling us we're on the right path. Speaking of Volo though, he couldn't even access every place where we find the plates because he wasn't even worthy in the first place, only following our lead the entire time and allowing us to accomplish these goals despite his incredible knowledge about Arceus and how necessary the plates were. None of the noble Pokemon, none of the alphas, no other Pokemon was willing to grant these to him. Not because he was evil, but because he wasn't working towards understanding the world before him and working towards a greater purpose. He had his own ideals, strong in their own right, as he really thought he would be changing the world, the universe even, for the better. And he even treated his Pokemon properly, as evidenced by there even being a Lucario and Togekiss on his team in the first place, but he was still self-centered in his ideas. All to the point where he even insulted Giratina in the moment that it lost to us, refusing to take personal accountability for the loss that he had at the end of the day. Volo had no choice but to battle us, even if it was an unfair fight, 8 versus 6. Steal the plates or get them in unfair ways and you're no longer the rightful bearer of the plates. And that's what this whole entire video could be summarized down to. Achieve greatness and become more powerful through the plates as you understand not just a regular battle, but the world. Do this through honest means or lose everything. By perfect comparison, the king we spoke of in the Abyssal Ruins had achieved amazing feats and is well loved by those that remember him. Meanwhile, Volo faded to history until he donated his outfit to the Lumiose Museum, but even then he is still an unnamed individual. Those that use their power for selfless reasons versus those that have their own self-centered ideals. It all comes down to some of my favorite phrases within Pokemon told to us by the unknown in the Celestian Ruins. Friendship. All lives touch other lives to create something anew and alive. The messengers of Arceus that watch us, the 1,000 eyes that carry this message to us. But if you want that idea explained regarding the 1,000 eyes of Arceus, go check out my video on that. At this point, I should probably just have an entire playlist for Arceus because there's so much that I've talked about, and probably still more that I will be able to find because There's just that much intricate details, too much to fit into one video. But for now, that's our story for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this one wasn't too short, but I had to get it out. Make sure that if you're new here, you do subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out other videos. I release videos at least once a week, have special shorts, and stream at least once every Friday. Thank you also to members of the channel who make a massive difference in ensuring I can take the time to make quality content for everyone, no matter what happens on YouTube, as I hear some weird, crazy stuff is happening all over again. Fun. If you would like behind-the-scenes information, early access to videos, and members-exclusive videos, like this list that's getting a new addition after this video is complete, then become a member for as little as $3 a month. Also, I think I pointed over here, and the video list is probably going over here. Oops. Whatever. That whole $3 a month makes a larger difference than you might ever expect, and you get plenty of content out of it. I've also been in a very strong theorizing mood, so after this video, I might be working on a Dream World and Original Dragon video, after the members exclusive video, of course, that I think everyone is going to really love. Then, I might have finally gotten my fill, and I'll get back into some ecological videos. We'll see. Depends on how I feel. Let me know, though, if there's any questions you might have or any theories. I love reading your comments, and honestly, if it weren't for Xana asking about this in a comment, I would have never been inspired to make this video in the first place and have a mighty need to make it. Speaking of comments, I'm actually torn a bit because usually I choose one of the best comments. Meanwhile, there were multiple comments that I just loved on my recent Regigigas video from people like Miss Glitch and Goldchamp saying things like, Regigigas did nothing wrong, free my boy Regice, he did nothing wrong, Summon Sloth also saying they'll pay for betraying my boy, and more. I gotta love when the community shares the brain cell. It makes everything so much more funny and even more endearing. But that is all for today. I'm in a very hot room. My voice is going hoarse. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't do anything I would do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!